Hi, I'm Natalie, and my presentation is going to be over the bullying at Scandinavia Business University. I'm going to walk through what happened, break down the conflict using some course concepts, and then share a strategy that I would actually use within my own workplace. So, at the beginning, the situation is really just about a disagreement over academic standards, but pretty quickly it turned it into something more personal. Bernard emailed Rochelle saying Amy would fail her thesis, and that as they started talking, he becomes really rigid and dismissive, especially about the use of the feminist economic theory. Rochelle tries to handle it professionally and even goes to administration, but instead of fixing the issue, the university basically tells her to just move forward. So at that point, she realizes she needs to protect both herself and her student, which is why she brings in colleagues and starts documenting everything. So going into the exam, Bernard had pretty much already decided Amy should fail, which is a huge problem because it removes any objectivity. Instead of asking fair questions, he was likely asking questions that were meant to prove his point and that the theory wasn't valid. This is a good example of a competing conflict style where someone is very strong in their own opinion but not willing to work with others. He probably used his role as the evaluator to push that decision, which shows a power imbalance. Overall, the environment was likely tense and not very fair for the student. Rochelle's stress isn't just about one thing. It was kind of everything piling up at once. She was dealing with role conflict because she had to support her student, follow university standards, and also defend herself, while at the same time she was doing a lot of emotional labor, staying calm and professional while being talked down to. There was also low psychological safety, meaning she didn't trust the process to actually be fair. And then the constant emails and calls just kept the conflict going instead of letting it settle. Was this bullying? I would say yes, it does fall under bullying. It wasn't just one moment, it kept happening over calls and emails. His tone was dismissive and kind of demeaning, and there was a clear power imbalance because he could impact Amy's grade. His communication style was very controlling. He was highly assertive, but not cooperative, and he didn't really listen. You could argue that it's just incivility since it happened over a short period of time, but because it was repeated and targeted, I think calling it bullying would make sense. So the university's responsibility, they had a lot of responsibilities to everyone involved, but they didn't fully meet them. For Rochelle, they should have made sure that she had a safe, respectful work environment and actually taken her concerns seriously. For Amy, they should have made sure that the evaluation was fair and unbiased, especially since her graduation was on the line. And lastly, for Bernard, they should have had clear expectations and made sure evaluators are trained to be objective and professional. For alternative tactics, Rochelle handled a lot of this really well, but there were a few things she could have done earlier. One thing she could have done right away is documenting everything, so it's not just her word against his. She also could have set clear boundaries from the beginning, like saying she's willing to discuss the work but not tolerate personal or hostile communication. Another option would be bringing in a neutral third party sooner to help manage the situation, and then just taking a pause before responding could have helped reduce some of the emotional stress for her as well. One strategy I would actually use in my own workplace is addressing the issues early before they turn personal. So for me, that would look like documenting concerns, clarifying expectations in writing, and involving someone neutral if needed. I think the hardest part would be not wanting to seem difficult or kind of just hoping that the problem goes away. But that would help. But what would help us is having support from a mentor and using clear communication tools so it feels more professional than just personal. So in conclusion, overall, this case shows how quickly conflict can escalate when there's a bias, poor communication, and even a misuse of power. Bernard's approach made the situation worse, and the university not stepping in early enough added to the problem. But Rochelle did a really good job advocating for her student and staying professional. So at the end of the day, this case really highlights how important fairness, respect, and psychological safety are, especially in these high-stakes situations. And that's all I have.